To the revolution! Hello, huge movie fanatic Nate coming at you. This time I'm coming at you to review a summer camp movie. I'm a big fan of summer camps in general, in particular summer camp movies, summer camp slasher movies, even summer camp comedies like, the Meatballs and things like that. And this is a movie that I've pretty much always known about because, ever since it entered video stores, I've always seen the cover, but the PG-13 rating for me was kind of the reason I never really saw this movie until I did. I'm coming at you to review Summer Camp Nightmare. This is a VHS I acquired, previously viewed from Video Update. Unfortunately in the clamshell. Then I was excited to be able to actually get another one. The cover is a little more faded on this one. This movie was, it's dated 1986, so maybe it was made in 86. And because then the VHS tape is dated 1987, came out on Embassy Home Entertainment in 1987. And I always kind of liked the cover. I kind of liked, I liked the font. Well, we'll show you the non-faded one. But I kind of like the font and just the color. It looks, it looks kind of like a horror movie, that aspect, and then the guy with the gun is kind of like, what's that about? Here's the back. To the revolution! But, being an anal bastard that I am, seeing as how it's kind of getting close to summer camp season, I thought I'd, basically review this summer camp, whatever you want to call it, just... It's funny because on the spine it says action/drama. Like those two genres don't really go together. Aren't they like completely opposite genres? Action/drama. But as I said, I never sought this movie out. I didn't see this movie for all through the 90s, and I wouldn't see this. I didn't seek it out because it was rated PG-13. I was like, well, how good can that be? Rated PG-13, but it was 2001. I was like, I'm sick of seeing this cover and not knowing what this movie's about or not having seen the movie. And believe it or not, I know the exact day in 2001 I saw this for the first time. I probably rented it that same day, and it's because the character, the Woody Allen kid character who's talking in the tape recorder on the bus ride on the way to camp, was it? North Pines, I want to say. He's talking into the tape recorder, and the first date he says into it is June 27th when they're on their apparently 8.5-hour bus ride. Like that, I don't understand why any trip would take that long. You could probably go from the northern side, or the southern California to northern California in 8 hours. I don't know why they can't go to a summer camp that's closer, but as he's talking into the tape recorder, and the first date heard in the movie is June 27th. Well, just by chance, I saw this movie for the very first time, June 27, 2001. And when I heard that date, when that kid said the date in the tape recorder, I was like, no flipping way. I checked the calendar or the date or whatever, and I'm like, sure enough, the day I first saw this movie was the exact same date the kid gives in the, at the very beginning of the movie. Pretty insane. So I just rewatched this movie last night on this VHS tape that I've got. And I'm torn between. I'm torn about this movie. To me, its pluses are. I should be said that this movie fantastically captures obviously the mid to late '80s, just fashions and kind of music, and fantastically obviously probably filmed at a real summer camp or whatever, or. It captures the fantastic summer camp atmosphere, and to be honest, that's pretty much the biggest thing I like about this movie. In addition to just capturing that great, mid to late '80s feel with the fashions and music. As I said, this movie features, among other people, well, it kind of stars Chuck Connors as Mr. Warren. He's kind of like the eldest, the older, kind of the head honcho of this movie. It's really strange because this movie splits the girls and boys up between like two. It sounds like I guess it's probably one camp, but it sounds like it's two camps because the boys are like at camp, if I'm remembering correctly, Camp North Pines, and the girls are at Camp South Pines, presumably south of them. but the first, the first part of this movie just kind of revolves around the guys. I don't know what I was trying to say. I don't know if I said it yet. Oh yeah, I was saying that this movie features a number of people, including Chuck Connors as kind of the lead character, and also features a familiar face from Friday the 13th Part 6, the guy who plays Court, who's apparently John Travolta's nephew. I read somewhere online. Of course, it's absolutely true because I read it online. But, having read that, I mean, it could very well be true because he kind of has that John Travolta thing about him. But that guy who played Court in Jason Lives is yet again another like CIT in this movie, and it's kind of interesting to see him just a year later or same year, same general time, doing pretty much the same role from Jason Lives. So seeing a familiar, being a Friday 13th fan, a huge Friday 13th fan, it's fun to see that guy. This movie also features this guy who plays, is it Franklin or Frank? That the guy who ends up being the main guy here, who basically takes over. It looks just like a Paul Rudd. It looks exactly like Paul Rudd, and then this movie also features this, as I said, this 12 or 13-year-old Woody Allen kid who's kind of the nerd, and he's kind of a featured kid in the movie, probably the most featured kid. So, this movie really is fun in the sense that it really captures summertime, it really captures summer camp. And one of the things you got to give this movie huge props for is something that Friday the 13th movies did a couple times, is they actually, in the first Sleepaway Camp movie did, is they actually have a bunch of young little kids running around, which really, really lends to this movie's, sense of realism, and really, gives this movie authenticity that really is appreciated by this huge movie fanatic. So basically the premise of this movie is you've got this this character, like I said, this Paul Rudd, twin brother guy, who is kind of this, I don't know, a revolutionary minded kind of a guy. Oh, it should be said that this movie's based on I think a book by the name of The Butterfly Revolution or something like that. I think the word butterfly is in the title. So this is a very kind of Lord of the Flies-ish kind of take on a summer camp movie. Well, basically the premise of this movie is you've got the Chuck Connors character is kind of a authoritarian, just I don't know, he's just kind of got these old boring values and can't quite connect with these the kids or the CIT. I don't think the kids have a problem with him as much as the CITs do. And he's just got all these rules, and there's TV, but the only channel is the religion channel. And not long into the movie, the CITs just really get sick of this kind of authoritarian, older guy, Chuck Connors' character, Mr. Warren. And what ends up happening is right at the beginning of the movie, after they all get settled, Mr. Warren's got this butterfly collection. And that's displayed at the camp, and he gets some kids after lunch or breakfast or whatever it is, probably lunch or dinner, to go for a butterfly hunt. And this kid, this character, this Paul Rudd character, who I want to say his name is the guy's name, the character's name in the movie is Frank. He basically is the kind of the revolutionary, rebel kind of minded guy. He comes into the cabin, sees this one little boy crying, and the kid talks about, it's really, you can't really tell exactly what he's saying, but the kid's talking about Mr. Warren and him picking him up and continually picking him up or something. And I don't know, I think at this moment, the Frank character is kind of like, did he, is wondering if, Mr. Warren molested this little boy. And I don't, it's kind of sketchy at this point as the viewer. We don't necessarily know if, this kid is saying that he got molested by Mr. Warren or not, but regardless, this Frank character basically uses this potential. I don't know if he, I don't know. I'm really confused at this point in the movie as if he thinks this kid was molested or not. Regardless, he basically says that to the other CITs, is basically, this little boy told me that Mr. Warren molested him. So he can use this among other things. The CIT's disdain for Mr. Warren from the get-go. He can use all this stuff against him to try to basically overthrow Mr. Warren. and basically take over the camp is basically what happens. And then a few days later, or next day or something like that, the young Woody Allen kid is swimming, and no one, everyone's distracted, kind of like Friday 13th. Everyone's distracted. No one's having sex, or at least that we can see, but everyone's distracted and no one's paying attention. So this Woody Allen kid who's basically doesn't know how to swim is gonna drown, and this Frank guy in the docks basically sees him and saves him. So he does all this kind of stuff to slowly, gain the trust of the campers and the other CITs, and also, by using this thing against Mr. Warren that he may or may not have molested this young boy, uses all these things to gain trust of the CITs and the campers and kind of form a vendetta against Mr. Warren. And then there's basically this thing, this fun day where the campers are dressed up as, the authorities, and then the authorities are dressed up as campers. It's kind of a fun activity for a day, a role reversal thing, which kind of is a really kind of a cool idea as a segue into basically, this Frank character's way to be able to, take over the camp. Basically, there's a series of events that continue to lead up to that moment. One point where the kids are just fed up with the religion channel. Who can blame them? And the CITs get the young Woody Allen kid who's all tech nerd, savvy and stuff, to basically go up on the roof and fiddle with the antenna or whatever, the connections, to actually get some. It's funny because it's like some softcore, just, I don't know, you can't even really call it porn, but it's like the lingerie channel, because all these women, it's a PG-13 movie, so all these women are just in lingerie, just going, or whatever. It's just, I don't know what the hell kind of a, lingerie, what kind of channel this is, but, this of course infuriates Mr. Warren, and it's like, I don't know if TV privileges are taken away, not that they want to watch a religion channel anyway, but there's a series of events that lead up to, everything going down. One of the things that really turns things upside down is later on, though, the girls will actually come from Camp South Pines or whatever to North Pines to do basically a talent show, for a co-ed talent show or whatever. So the girls, there's three kind of main girls in this movie, all of which are relatively sexy, but the brunette in particular has got some bustage and is probably the one kind of the hottest for me. But then that one blonde who kind of gets paired up with the kind of the good CIT in this movie is pretty hot too. I mean, they're all hot in their own right, but they do this kind of goofy ass little suggestive little number where they're talking about, about if the boys are lonely, come to South Pines, and it's just like so funny. But it's like down south or whatever. Come on down south, and it's just kind of like suggestive, because down south is I don't think I have to tell you where down south is, but that song was just kind of funny. You can see, that bit that song on YouTube. You can actually, at this moment, you can see the whole movie. Some kind soul ripped the Laserdisc and put that on YouTube in its entirety. So as of now, you can actually see this whole movie, and since it's PG-13, you can see this whole movie, and probably nothing's cut. But this song where the girls do is kind of suggestive. It's kind of a funny song, and then when it gets all the boys, all the guys, CITs and stuff, just raring to go and all wild and revved up and stuff. And then the guys come, these two guys, one of them's Runk. I didn't even mention, we introduced, as soon as the kids get off the bus, we're introduced instantly to this Runk the Punk character. And this Runk the Punk character and the Court from Jason Lives, I think it's through this kind of a rock song or whatever, which of course infuriates Mr. Warren, and Mr. Warren shuts that down. And I think because of that, the dance that was going to happen, co-ed dance, which was going to happen that weekend or something, was canceled. All these kind of events are just a bummer. I think that night after the talent show, these three main guys, Runk the Punk, and I can't remember what other, there's the Chris Wayne, who's like the good CIT. I can't remember. The third guy is the character of Court from Jason Lives. Those three are kind of the main CITs. They get together with the three CIT girls that did the talent show song, and they're kind of, in a very PG-13 way, just kind of get together and just, I don't know, do a little kissing or whatever. And then the kind of Leave It to Beaver mom, who's the main head honcho of the girls' camp, discovers like this Chris. He turns out to be the good CIT, Chris, Chris Wayne, and this hot blonde chick making out, and I think that basically makes them makes Mr. Warren put him in the, what do they call it? The pen, this kind of frickin' cabin that's just devoted to either quiet time or prison time. I mean, both prison time and quiet time are quiet time, so you might as well just say quiet time. You could say quiet time by choice or quiet time by not by choice, but either way it's quiet time. So this is kind of the thing that kind of is the last straw for the the character of Frank, who's just the revolutionary guy, and so this is what I was talking about happens then the next day, where it's the the switching of the roles. CIT, some of the kids pretend to be the head honchos, and the head honchos are campers. And what's really cool about this whole thing is there's like, oh, they do this thing, well, we want this, or we want the end of this, and then the Frank character's like, free quiz, I can't say this, free Chris Wayne. So they're basically just goofing around about what they wish could change at the camp, doing this kind of role reversal thing, and then in a very serious tone, Frank's like, free Chris Wayne. Like, this is something that's not a joke, we want this for real. And then all the CITs, I think, and some of the kids, campers and stuff, get behind him, and it's like, free Chris Wayne. Free Chris Wayne, being that, the CIT, the good CIT who's locked in the prison at summer camp cabin. And this is kind of what ensues, and I think kind of where everything goes bad. Basically, I think before this scene happened, the Frank character goes into a drawer and just basically picks, or takes out of it this handgun. Not sure why the handgun would be in a drawer at a summer camp, but it's a movie, whatever. Yeah, I don't think that would probably be there, but it's a movie, whatever. So I think that it was this scene where he's like, free Chris Wayne, where I don't know, at some point, it doesn't really matter when, that gun obviously comes out and threatens, is kind of what the way they're able to take over the camp from the the Mr. Warren character and some of the elder kind of counselors, and they're able to put them basically into the pen / prison cabin or whatever, lock them into that, and then basically from that point on, this Frank character takes over and becomes kind of the leader of the revolution, if you will, and it's kind of, it slowly progresses, and then obviously they put everything that they want to watch on TV. It's just eating junk food. It's kind of co-ed. It slowly progresses, it gets to be more and what they want or whatever. It starts kind of innocent, where they of course lie to the girls, counselors and CITs and campers in general, and saying that this is just just an extended switcheroo day or whatever. But as the movie progresses, it's the stakes get higher and higher. So basically, I don't know, halfway point through the movie or whatever, it's like summer camps, everyone's having fun, kind of doing kind of whatever they want without rules, obviously. Well, what's ironic is this the Frank character, the revolution guy, the Paul Rudd, doppelganger, is like, he makes his own set of rules. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of weird. So, I mean, it's like, oh, you can't betray the revolution, or, don't do this or don't do that. Well, meanwhile, this Chris Wayne character, kind of the good CIT, and his kind of, the hot blonde he kind of got paired up with, really aren't digging this stuff, and he's not too sure about it. And then at some point there's this, I don't know why they went to get out Mr. Warren or whatever from the pen or the prison cabin, but there's a point where Runk the Punk goes to get him from the cabin or whatever, and at knife point, and Mr. Warren kind of tries to escape and ends up falling into the knife, and so Runk the Punk accidentally kills, or is a party to Warren's death, and actually Warren dies for real. And I think you don't see this on camera, but Frank tells him to like go take him and like put him in this cave or whatever. We'll put the body in a cave, and that'll be the end of him or whatever. And we'll just, I don't know, we'll just say he's left, or we'll just make up a lie why he's never around anymore. obviously when Mr. Warren dies, the stakes are really ups the ante, and obviously it makes everyone who knows about Mr. Warren's death kind of more uncomfortable. And this is the kind of point of the movie where things are really just getting crazy around camp, and kids are just, the whole place is getting messy. Just girls are sleeping with boys, presumably. I mean, PG-13, you don't get to see anything. But, the place is getting messy, littered all over, kids just sleeping outside, waking up at 2 in the morning, just zombies they just kind of follow Frank's, Frank's just way of his new revolution way or whatever, which is probably even more authoritative than, in his own right, very similar to Mr. Warren's situation. What ends up happening on some night, all the CITs are out with their respective girls, getting down or getting it on or whatever they're doing, and the guy who played Court from Jason Lives, I don't know his character in this movie, basically ends up getting really worked up with his girl and basically forces himself on her, and then what later comes to be, she claims, kind of, not exactly sure about this or whatever, but probably in a PG-13 way, basically the character, the girl that he was paired up with, claims, later on that he raped her. So there's this kind of trial that's done and whatever, and there's this rope bridge, which I didn't mention early on in the movie, kind of it's rat-tattered bridge that goes from the boys to the girls' cabin or camp. And early on in the movie, Frank crossed it, like hand over hand or whatever, and kind of showed both his defiance. The people are supposed to stay off the rope bridge. He kind of showed his defiance to authority and I guess his abilities and macho-ness at the same time to the rest of the campers or CITs, whoever witnessed that. Well, basically, his idea is a kind of a trial or punishment by whatever the hell it is. He sends this guy, this Court from Jason Lives, to see if he can pass that test, and of hand over hand going back and forth over the decrepit rope bridge. And I guess his idea is if he can make it, then he's free, and if he doesn't make it, he falls to his death or whatever. Well, he's all muscular and macho guy. Well, not that muscular, but he ends up, doing it, going back and making it, and the chick's just pissed about it. What ends up happening later, and off camera, of course, is the girls end up just basically all ganging up on him and just carry him away, and basically we end up finding out later that character of, Court from Jason Lives ends up being hanged by the girls, which is really kind of, I mean, if he really did rape, I guess we're supposed to, assume that he really did rape her and stuff, because the girls basically all hung him and stuff. That kind of really went there. Unfortunately, like I say, with PG-13 we don't really see anything on camera, but later on his body is discovered hung, and it's just like, oh man, this is going there. Basically, towards the end of the movie, it's revealed that, in fact, the young kid reveals that Mr. Warren didn't molest him. Basically, it was just, I guess they had to kind of make it, at the beginning of the movie, they had to kind of make it ambiguous to not have the viewer not necessarily know one way or another what happened. And that way they could be in kind of the same boat that the rest of the CITs and people are when Frank uses that, basically lies and uses that possibility against Mr. Warren. So we find out at the end of the movie that Mr. Warren is innocent, didn't do anything with the kids or a kid, and at that point, I don't know, I think some of the CITs, kind of led by Chris Wayne, they're kind of like, they're revolting against the Frank character, and the nerd Woody Allen kid tries to go up on the roof and tries to dial into a phone line or something like that to call for help. He gets discovered, and at that point, the next day or whatever, the Frank's going to make him do the rope bridge challenge, hand over hand or whatever. And I think at that point, I don't know, Chris Wayne is kind of getting some of the CITs and some of the other campers on his side to basically do a second revolt, this time against Frank, and basically taking the place back from this evil, self-appointed dictator, whatever the hell Frank, calls himself, General Frank. I can't remember. I mean, he's all dressed all goofy later on towards the end of the movie, and it's just like, oh gosh. So that's kind of the you know, basically the end climax, if you will. Basically the kids in a very suspenseful, quote unquote suspenseful scene where the what the hell's the name of his kid? Donald is the Woody Allen kid's name. He's, you know, hanging from the rope bridge, his life on the line, and all the kids are fighting each other and, you know, trying to take the camp back from this guy who took it away from the first guy, and just like, you know, a little bit of an action scene or whatever. It's CITs versus CITs, campers versus campers. Just kind of all out melee, if you will, at the end of in a PG-13 fashion. So basically, at the end of the movie, the good kids take the camp back. I think the Frank character gets hauled away in a police car. Obviously, he's complicit in, you know, events that led to the deaths of, you know, at least. So the body count in this movie, I mean, not being a horror movie, is, you know, Mr. Warren, and then I think that court character from Jason Lives. I think those are the only two people that die. So, you know, that's the end of the movie. So it's a really, it's like I say, it's yeah, as much as you wish it was a horror movie, it's not a slasher movie, it's not a horror movie, it's not a body count kind of a movie. It's a different kind of a summer camp movie. It's a summer camp nightmare. It's like I say, it's Lord of the Flies or whatever at summer camp. It's this, you know, revolutionary guy wanting to test out his whatever, his rebel theories and at a summer camp situation. And so I'll go 2 1/4 stars out of 4 stars for Summer Camp Nightmare. As much as I want to absolutely love it, it's hard to love it because it's not a horror movie. It's something else. Like I say, the things that I do like about it, and, you know, the reason I'm able to give that you know, the movie is high a rating, not that it's really that high as I am. I mean, it's leaning towards 2.5 stars out of 4 stars, but, you know, it's somewhere in between 2 1/4 stars and 2.5. The thing that I like best about it, once again, is just the, you know, the mid to late '80s atmosphere, fashions, music. Summer camp, you know, the characters are great, are fun, just different, you know, different campers and CITs of varying ages. And it's, like I say, I can't stress enough how fantastically it captures summer camp. You know, the atmosphere, that's, you know, the main thing it's got going for it. You know, you kind of get sick of the, you know, the Frank character after a while, to be honest, and you just kind of, in this environment, you just, you know, with this kind of a movie, you just, after a while, you kind of, you know, you're just so used to seeing Jason or Angela, or you just, after a while, it feels weird not seeing kind of body count or on-screen kills or sex scenes. You know, obviously coming from the kind of genre movies that I really like and stuff, it's kind of hard to watch in that respect. But, you know, for what it is, it's definitely, I guess it does what it does well and offers a really cool, you know, really cool atmosphere of summer camp or whatever. So thank you. Like, as I said, at this point, I just checked last night. I mean, it is on YouTube. Some kind soul basically, you know, took the movie off a Laserdisc, which at this point is the best source for this movie. I would be very interested and would purchase a Blu-ray if, you know, I can see Scream Factory or, you know, Shout/Scream Factory releasing a Blu-ray of this actually, and I would buy it just because a movie like this, you know, that takes place outdoors and stuff like that, really begs to be seen in the, you know, some of the best quality possible. So it would be nice if, you know, this is definitely a forgotten gem, and so many others that are probably even less known and lesser movies, you know, at that rate, and that, you know, aspect have been put out by the likes of Arrow and Scream Factory and stuff like that. It would be nice to see, hopefully with any luck someday in the coming, you know, weeks and months, or unfortunately, well, hopefully not years, we will be able to experience this movie on Blu-ray. But as I said, Some Kind Soul took the, you know, Laserdisc, which unfortunately at this point is the best quality version, and uploaded that to YouTube. So if you haven't seen it and you've got like 90 minutes to waste, or, you know, enjoy this movie or whatever, feel free to head on over to YouTube. Well, you're already there, you're already here, and check this movie out. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, we'll catch you next time. We're here because we're here because we're here because we're here. If you want to know what that is, it's the revolution. I think that's probably better.